And we are live. Welcome to a surprise edition of the Astro Weather. Let me see if I can get my light levels right here. No, 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 no. Kind of, sort of. It's about as good as it gets today. Or else I should have just thrown on the lights. We have plenty of front light here, but we don't have fill light. So note to self. Lights must go on. How is everybody? Good morning. We are going to get into some astro weather today. Obviously, yesterday did not happen because I had an incident. Well, not me personally. Well, it did ultimately come to me, but I had an incident with my mother's cell phone post FEMA or not FEMA EBS alert. That was real interesting. She tried to get on her cell phone, use the same passcode that she's used since 2009, would not let her in. So later that night, we had no other way to talk to Apple customer service. So I had to get on my phone, use my computer, boot her phone into my computer, and they were going to try and do a bunch of stuff. Didn't work, and then my computer went down. Right. So I spent all of yesterday pretty much at the Apple store having them repair my computer, basically reinstalling the operating system, and that helped me with my computer, so I could actually be here and do this today. However, for my mother, it did not work out so well. She lost all of her data, being all of her pictures, pictures of her kid, my kid, her grandson, friends. It's all gone now, all completely gone. And it wasn't just her passcode, but it didn't recognize her Apple ID. I mean, something really, really weird happened. Now, is it just coincidence that it happened on the heels of the signal? Tried to get her to turn it off. I think we did a reasonable job, I think. But anyway, that's why I wasn't here. I was in San Antonio. I was getting my computer fixed. That's usually so there's either, hey, look who's here. It's either a technical difficulty or some other kind of business. Usually, if I do the show, I'll do the show. I'm the Iron Man of Astro Weather. Okay, thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate it. Why don't we get into it? By the way, this is actually a picture of where I live. And this cow is a stand-in for the lone black cow who is out there right now. So when I go outside my front door and kind of walk down the lane a little bit, this is what you see. This was morning about 3 days ago. Oh, my cat just appeared too. All right, it's cat time. Jasper, you are letting everybody know what's up, aren't you? You are letting everyone know what's up. Did we avoid the catastrophe yesterday, Jasper? I had a funky dream this morning. I was being marched into a Roman prison camp. It was in a beautiful location, and I was wearing cowboy boots. That is a weird dream. That is a very weird dream. So Dick Butkus died yesterday, and he was 80 years old. I swear to God, I am like the kiss of death for some of these people. Every time I start to think about somebody who's older, I'm like, hey, what's going on with that person? What are they up to? What's going on in their life? It seems like not long after that, their ticket is punched. And I just started following Dick Butkus on Twitter. I didn't realize he had a Twitter account. He was 80 years old. Dick Butkus was one of the great warriors, absolute great warriors of the NFL. I mean, he was a beast. And he was actually a really nice guy, too. Like, he was very funny. He had an acting career after his football career. Did a lot of commercial work, did some movies. Dick Butkus is an icon, total icon. And I thought about how he passed away. And he was living in Malibu because he'd gone to Hollywood and made a lot of money post-football. and he was living in Malibu, and he passed away in his sleep. And I thought to myself, this is how the warriors ascend to Valhalla. You get the sleep pass. To me, that would be the absolute best way to go. Right? There's just no fuss, no hassle, no kind of lingering deterioration. None of that bullshit. Nobody has to see you, go into some decrepit state. You go to bed, you go to sleep, and you just don't wake up. To me, that was Butkus's gift for living a life of, well, let's just say honor and bravery. So what does that mean for you? We don't all have to be Dick Butkus, right? But there's something, I think, to be said for that. There's something to be said for just laying it all out there, right? Laying it all out there and not getting cheated. And throwing yourself into everything that you can do to the best of your ability. And the reward might just be that your transition from this world is a lot more easier than other people, right? To me, the transition is an expression of a life well lived, rightly lived in a lot of ways. So there you go, little Dick Butkus for you. Susie Gemini said, my grandpa's sister went that way, had a nice French dip for lunch, took her nap, passed at 96 in a warm, cozy bed at home. I think it's the way it should be. Everything else to me seems highly unnatural. Cheeky Monkey checking in from Oklahoma. What's up, Amy? Seeing you soon. Anarchology. Perhaps Travis Kelce will pass while filming his next Pfizer commercial. I was thinking about Kelce and Taylor Swift. And I really feel like, so what comes first here? The chicken or the egg, right? What's first, chicken or egg? Because there's something very astrological going on with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, even though Kelce aligns with the sign in some ways a bit more, right? But when you look at Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, what do you have? You have the nodes. And Travis Kelce is a football player. He's a warrior, right? So the true node is in Aries. You throw Taylor Swift on the other side of the axis, who's a woman ruled by Venus. And the NFL now has the astrological stronghold on the season, right? Is this a byproduct of just astrology happening? Or do they sit down and go, you know what? This true node is in Aries. South node is in Venus. Can we concoct a football soap opera romance and literally command the narrative for the entire season? Because that's what's happened. Now, there's been pushback around some of this because, let's face it, Taylor Swift is a liberal. She's a liberal progressive. She, cries crocodile tears for all the major social issues, abortion, all the stuff like that, right? Just check those boxes. So what she's bringing to the table is a whole new set of viewers to the NFL, many of whom have boyfriends and or are married, right? Like it feels like in some ways a covert tactic to convert male football fans from being conservative to being less conservative and voting along like the Taylor Swift line, because now their girlfriends are watching football with them, right? Oh, and then they get in there and say, she's great, he's great. Oh, look, he got the jab. Look at that. Now, of course, the voting booth is a very private operation. So you don't have to tell anybody, especially even in a relationship. Who'd you vote for? Well, I voted for our candidate. Right. Anyway, it is a total astrological operation. Speaking of astrology, let's get into some. I'll try to bring it into the context for the weekend, but we'll only be working off of one chart here. We won't be doing a 3-day chart. So this is what we're looking at right now. Friday, the 6th of October, 2023. We started at 10 a.m. in Austin, Texas. Unlike the early morning casts, which are getting interesting because the sun is getting closer to the ascendant. As you can see today, the sun is in the 11th house. So it's a social time. It's social time with Robert and Jasper. We've really come through this very intense phase. Now, Mars is going to line up tomorrow and be in that exact square with Pluto. So if you go back and look at what I was talking about earlier in the week, and I was looking at that Mars South Node conjunction in Libra, I started to talk about grudges, right? Grudges. And there have been rumors in the past of speakers being removed from the House. This is the first time it's ever happened. And I think when you look at it from an astrological perspective, you can see that Mars on the South Node of Libra. Kevin McCarthy had reneged on his deal. He had reneged on his deal. They'd made a deal. Remember, there was a big holdup with him. It's like, no, we don't want you to, if you're going to be the speaker, then you really have to come to our party. And so they made agreements. And then he walked around them and subterfuged their agreements. And I think, honestly, Matt Gaetz and the Gaetz Slate were looking for Kevin McCarthy to fuck up. And he did. He did. It was the omnibus spending bill. And he included the Ukraine stuff in it. And they were like, nope, not going to work. So there's a couple things here. And I think there's probably an outstanding grudge between Gaetz and McCarthy, because that was the grudge energy. Also, though, when you look at the South Node in Libra, Libra is all about agreements and commitments and contracts. And he was in violation of the contract that they made, right? So with Mars here on the South Node, it executed the end of the contract. So this is quite interesting. And I think it's fairly seismic. It's never happened before. It has never happened. And now, by the way, Matt Gaetz is a Taurus. And he's born, I believe, May 15th, which puts his sun right around maybe 24 Taurus. Right. So a lot of this stuff, if you look at like Jupiter had been on his sun and is retrograding. And Uranus, I think, was in about 4 degrees of his sun and is retrograding. So all those Tauran issues about money, the budget, single bill votes, which is really what he wants. That's all Taurus stuff. Like the budget stuff is Taurus stuff. And Matt Gaetz had enough action around his Taurus sun to put it into action. All right, so that's just at a collect. Now we're in a new place now, right? We are in a new place. And this Mars-Pluto square is really intense, right? Like, which way is it going to go? Which way is the blade going to fall? Maybe it goes in both directions. Maybe there's an equal amount of justice served on both sides. Again, I'm just talking from a collective perspective. This is Mars crying foul, right? Bloody foul. And we're coming into a weekend here. By the way, has anybody seen Joe Biden lately? Where is he? I haven't seen him. Maybe that's a good thing. But on a collective level, like this is very intense energy. People are ready to fight. I mean, this is cue the Rolling Stones, Street Fighting Man. I mean, this is kind of what's going on here now. We have the true node conjunct Eris. So I've decided to include Eris in my daily cast now because I feel like that's all I've been dealing with ever since my mother moved in is Eris, because she has Eris conjunct her Mercury Saturn in Aries. I'm like, whoa, okay. I better supplicate Eris a little bit, give Eris some airtime, air it out with Eris. So we have the true node conjunct Eris. It's really interesting energy, really, really interesting energy. Eris is all about discord. And Aries here is in the true node is in the Leo decan, right? Is that right? It's in the Sagittarian decan. We're going backwards. Sagittarian decan. So there's kind of a righteousness that's associated with the true node here. I mean, even if you look at the budget stuff with Gates, there's a righteousness with it. So how do you get Eris on your team? That's, to me, how does Eris become an ally? I'm working on it. And it's different than Uranus. I'm okay with Uranus. I'm okay with, well, for the most part, it's made my computer life and my sixth house kind of hell. But I'm more okay with Uranus because Uranus in my chart is nicely aspected. Eris is a whole new dance partner for me. And it's different, right? This is disruption and this is discord. And the two are different, right? Uranus disrupts patterns. And sometimes the pattern disruption can be a good pattern disruption. And of all the outer planets, I've always contended that Uranus is the one that is the most accessible because you can practice your own version of creative disruption. Neptune, forget about it, right? Neptune, you're dealing with letting go, surrender, aspiring towards something godly, holy, divine, if you want to get up in the higher octaves of Neptune, right? That's what you do. You aspire towards that, what you can't change, you surrender and let go. You pray for your enemies, right? At the higher octaves of Neptune. But there's nothing you can really do with Neptune except surrender, let go, right? Open for possibilities of healing at the high level. At the lower level of Neptune, you can indulge in a lot of distractions. But we want to go from the higher perspective because the lower aspects of Neptune are easier to get to, right? All you got to do is click on some porn on your computer, or drink, or do drugs, or debase yourself, or devalue yourself. Put other people before you in a way that's not healthy. Like all that stuff is easily done and acceptable through Neptune. At the higher octave, though, it's different. It is more aspirational, right? It's aspirational. It's surrendering. It's letting go. Pluto, forget about it. Pluto, you don't do any deals with Pluto. Pluto, it's like it's black, it's white. You're gonna die. You're gonna be transformed. You're gonna be reborn. You're gonna go through the fire. There's no negotiating with Pluto, right? But Uranus is the one outer planet where if you can make creative change, if you can be a disruptor in a way that is, I would say, meaningful, and that's going to be dependent upon each person, Uranus can work. Eris is totally disruption and discord are two different things, right? Disruption means you're breaking patterns. Discord means that there is a complete and utter field of obstacles in your path, right? Whatever they are. So it's very, very different. So today, the true node is in a really interesting position. We're looking at how we deal with discord. And I don't know whether or not it has anything to do with this conjunction, but the Spanish, people will call him a dictator. Franco popped into my head yesterday. And I'd known that Franco was a very interesting ruler, right? He was a very interesting ruler because when he was young, he wound up kind of moving up the ranks of the Spanish army, and he basically fought off, the Spanish Revolution, right? Or at least when the communists were in, Franco was the one who routed them and eventually took over Spain, ran Spain with a fucking iron fist, right? But guess what else he did? He brought Spain back from the brink of economic disaster in the 20th century. People talk about Germany and they talk about Japan as being countries that really proliferated economically after World War II. Spain is not often brought into that conversation, and it is a great example. Franco said we have a national religion. It's Catholicism, and and he was flexible too. He was a Sagittarius, so Sagittarius have some mutability. Like even somebody as brutal as Stalin, right? Like Stalin was fucking brutal, but even Stalin over his time began in his own way to see the merits of capital, because he reindustrialized Russia, right, with the help of the United States. So both of them are Sagittarians, and they both kind of do the same thing, although Franco was way more successful. And he wound up killing a lot of people along the way. And, it's a really slippery slope when you're a tyrant, because you cannot let, and we've seen this in this country now, you cannot let these miscreants get a foothold in the system, because when they get in the system, they're like roaches, but only worse. They're worse. So what did Franco do? Franco got rid of the roaches. I mean, he got rid of the roaches. And then what message did that send to the rest of the Spanish populace? Well, you better fucking step in line here, or else you're going to go the way of the Roach Motel, right? That's what the guy did. But he wasn't tyrannical to the point where he was taking out everybody that was making him paranoid and unsure about his ability to rule. Now, sure, he probably broke a few eggs along the way to make an omelet. Don't get me wrong. But he was incredibly successful in maintaining a reign of order in the 20th century that no other popular leader in the West has done. And oh, by the way, his two biggest foes, the things that he hated the most, were what? Communists and Masons. Communists and Masons. Spain had an unprecedented run. And then at the end, he didn't appoint somebody to take over, right, and continue. Franco, too, he gave it back to King Juan Carlos, whatever. Here you go. Do whatever you want with it. It's your country now. And then he flips it. They go to democracy, and here come the socialists. Here come the Marxists. Why am I talking about that? Because in a lot of ways, when you get into the true node and the aorist conjunction, it's an echo of that, right? It's an echo of using this Aries-like force in order to deal with the discord. This is something that in this country we have, we've really fallen away from. I'll give you an example. Let's say we return to the streets of Philadelphia from last week, and you have, all the late night shoppers, and they're picking through all the stores. And who shows up? It's guys on fucking bicycles, right? So there's something. The police forces around the country have equipment called LRADs. And what do LRADs do? They can send high-pierced sounds into a crowd and disperse the crowd. The only time I saw LRADs used in the summer of Floyd was in Kenosha, the night of the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. Like, they were trying to break into the federal building there, and they actually had LRADs. First time I'd seen any LRADs, and they were down low, but they were effective. You never see them. You never see them, right? This to me would be the true node in Aries dealing with the discord. And I wonder if we're going to see some of that this weekend. I wonder if we're going to see some heavy-handed use of force. Personally, maybe at a state level, governmental level, right? Like, just like, to me, this is force. And I'm going to get into this with Russ at 12 noon when we do the Friday Forecast. Russ Winter is going to be my guest. We're going to talk a lot about what's happening on the streets of America right now, and particularly what's going on in New York. So it's so interesting, right? Like, even looking at the company that runs the security for guarding these migrants in the hotel. The company's called Arrowhead, right? Arrowhead. And when you get into Arrowhead, even though there are some Sagittarian connotations, Aries, arrow, right? Aries is the warrior. Aries is, if you look at Travis Kelce, he's a chief, right? What do they have on the side of their helmet? An arrowhead. Where do they play? Arrowhead Stadium. And Travis Kelce's become now the male face of the NFL, right? So we can see how Aries, and he's a warrior, right? Football is all about, it's a warrior sport. So we can see here that Arrowhead, which is the security company that is guarding, who knows, even training these migrants, right? They're on top of Eris, right? This is literally them on top of Eris. And it's all run by ex-cops, or in the New York state and city policing system. One of the guys on the board used to run the prisons for New York State. So it's a local contract with Eric Adams. And this is just like looking at it from a big picture perspective. But I feel like this is a weekend, especially, let's just call it this week, because of how slow the true node moves. Let's call it this week. This is a week where you have to put down the discord. You got to put it down. Like in your life, right? You have to be focused. You have to be vigilant. Now, how do you say, well, discord happens? Well, yes, it does happen. But my feeling about Aries is that Aries is very, very thorough. And it's also, I don't want to use the word simplistic, but Aries likes to get to the heart of the thing, right? If you've ever had a conversation with an Aries and you're telling a story, 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you to get to the point. That's where they'll go with it. And where's this going? Just get to the point, right? This is how Aries rolls. It distills things to sort of the bare minimum in some ways. On Monday night on Sirius Sports, we're going to be looking at this offense called the Air Raid, which is very Aries in and of itself, right? The Air Raid offense. And it was started by this guy named Hal Mummy, who coached at the University of Kentucky. He has all these disciples. And the Air Raid offense has changed the NFL. And Hal Mummy is an Aries. And he basically said, when I wanted to take this offense on, I wanted to make it as simple as possible. I wanted about 4 or 5 plays that we could run and that we could get guys open on every play and attack all different portions of the field. That is Aries, right? So part of this is the simplicity, right? Simplicity. So you'll have less discord if you have less plugins. So unplug from the things that you don't need, right? Unplug from the things that have the potential of bringing more discord into your life. Like, narrow it down to 3 things that are really important. To me, this is the exercise. And when you do that, then the byproduct of all these other plugins that aren't being used, it's kind of like my website. Like I had all these fucking, WordPress templates in there. And it was because I had all these WordPress templates in there. It's one of the reasons why I got my site hacked. Did I need all those unused WordPress templates? No, right? And they're kind of like what? Plugins. So you want to unplug from needless plugins. Now, that might also be people. There may be people that are needless plugins in your life. You may want to unplug from them, especially if they're connected more or less to Discord. So there's ways here, and I'm learning. I got a front row seat here with Aries, trust me. But I feel like with Aries, it's about simplicity, and you just narrow it down. Just narrow things down. And the other thing too with Aries is you've got to nip it in the bud, right? You got to get there first. You got to get there before the discord gets there. That's the other part of Aries. Aries is vigilant, right? Aries is walking point when you're like, in a place like Vietnam or Afghanistan or whatever. There's a guy that's always in front and they're walking point. That's Aries. walking point, looking around, scouting, the eyes and the ears, the tip of the spear for everybody behind them. So this is a real walking point energy. And because it's in the Sagittarian decan, I think that there is also a sense of righteousness involved, right? I mean, that spills over into the Gates thing, like righteousness. It's like it's interesting when you listen to somebody talk, you can hear whether or not they're authentic. If you're really, really listening, you can hear whether they're authentic or not. You have to really pay attention because they don't equivocate. And I've been listening to Matt Gaetz since he did this. I listened to him on a Twitter space, watched him on Jason Whitlock last night. He's not equivocating. He's authentic. What the guy's talking about and what he is attempting to do is authentic. And in the Sagittarian decan, it's kind of like no more. Like no more. Sagittarius renders judgment. So there was a judgment that was rendered. Kevin McCarthy, cue up Linda Ronstadt. You're no good. So this is all, you can work on this, right? This is like homework with the Trudeau and Aries conjunct Eris. It's going to be there for a little while, for a little bit. And just see where discord is in your life. Now, if you don't have any discord, maybe you have friends that do. Maybe they'll come to you. Maybe you can share some of these ideas with them. What else do we have? We got that Mars-Pluto square, which is coming up. Very intense. It's this weekend. It really peaks on Sunday. And, where are we going with all this? I'm feeling 1776 vibes. You got the FBI coming out saying they're going to profile Trump supporters. I mean, it's really interesting. I'm going to talk about this on Sunday night. If you go back to, the shots that were fired at Lexington and Concord, right? That's when Uranus had just gone into 0 Gemini. And we're coming up on Uranus and 0 Gemini. It is the Uranian return of the first shots of the Civil War. Now, that's not going to be the end of 2025, but it's coming, right? And past is prologue, or past does have a relationship to the future. And here we are, Pluto 27. It's the Pluto return. And what Matt Gaetz did was very revolutionary. It was like something that the founding fathers, and I'm not here to shine the guy's shoes. I'm just telling you, like, that was radical, right? That would never happened before. It's revolutionary. So we're kind of queuing up for this energy right now. And all I can say is that, ladies and gentlemen, you better be in shape. And, I'm doing my best to get back into shape. But you better be in shape, because we're going to come into a time where you're going to need to be in shape. Everybody should be walking at least a mile a day. Easy. Because when the scales tip, and it certainly feels like they're going to tip, you need to be prepared. Now, some people objected to my use of the word Karen the last time I did this. You know what I'll say about that? Karen does have a negative connotation, and it does come out of this kind of stereotype of this kind of, white, it's like the woman who, although my experience with them was generally pretty nice, it was like the women who had the whistles on the schoolyard. Or sometimes they weren't always that nice, but sometimes they were. Anyway, that's kind of what it's the schoolyard marm, with the brass whistle, and always telling you not to do this, not to do that, not to to me, that's what the Karen represents. So, I don't really feel bad for using the word Karen. It's part of the vernacular. And I think that Karens have changed a bit over time. But Black Moon Lilith and Virgo, if it's not Karen, it's Nurse Ratched, right? Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So we're going to call this Black Moon Lilith. at 0 Virgo, Nurse Ratchet. And that's what we're dealing with here. And it happens in your personal life, professional life, right? Nurse Ratchet is kind of an evil control freak. The moon is in Cancer, so we're getting that here on Friday. I like the Cancer moon. It's going to squares the sun now, so we're if you're trying to make any big decisions right now, it might be a bit difficult. And I mean right now, like right during this broadcast or later in the day, because the emotions are not aligned with kind of the overall atmosphere. Cancer tends to be very conservative again, right? It tends to be very touchy-feely, very sensitive. And Libra is an air sign. And Libra, once Libra thinks that the scales are balanced, they're good, right? They don't have to spend a lot of time, going down the well of their emotions, right? So there is, and again, when you get into these squares, like the moon of Libra is really instinctual, really, really instinctual. And the sun in Libra, I'm sorry, moon in Cancer is really instinctual. The sun in Libra is very rational, weighs things out. Well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And the moon in Cancer is like, no, get your kids and move, right? Like, so we're in that place today. It's an interesting energy, when we're dealing with something very instinctual. So, well, let's just see it play out a little bit. Let's just see it play out. So keep that in mind. And we're at 13 degrees right now, very interesting degree. And then squaring on Chiron, that moon Chiron square comes in a little bit later today. This is a really tricky T-square, actually. Very tricky T-square. I think the one planet that is a game changer in the T-square is Jupiter. And that's having faith. That's having faith in your emotions, trusting your emotions. I'm going to go. Here's what I'm going to go in all in on the emotional body overriding the checks and balances. Let's wait and see how this plays out. This is a time where I'm going to say override, right? If you feel something, if you're feeling instinctual about something, if you have faith in what you're feeling, move on it. Move on it. The Chiron square in Aries are people that will question what you're feeling and question your instincts. But here you go. You got to have faith. You got to have faith. Even if Jupiter is retrograde, you have to have faith. It could be something that could help you, a type of retrenchment in some ways. Venus, say goodbye to Venus and Leo. We got 3 more degrees, kind of yodding out here with Pluto. Very interesting. And Neptune has now reached yod status. I think Venus-Mars sextile helps with cooperation around this good balance of male-female energy, but it's and both of them are in masculine elements, right? Air and fire. So I like that. The Uranus square is very disruptive, even though Venus has moved kind of past the critical point. But the yod to me is interesting, right? Like what's driving your relationships? Is it Pluto, which could be defined as habitual in some ways? Is it Neptune? Well, not habitual. Sometimes Neptune can play the role of perhaps hanging on too long, right? Like when I think of Neptune, I think of Pisces, I think of the current situation we're in. Oh, they're not so bad. He's not so bad. No, that's okay. Give him another chance. And then, third chance, the guy puts a knife through the heart of an activist, right? You know what I'm talking about? Like that's how Neptune can roll. It's the blind side. And Pluto is the thing that keeps you like deeply dug in and anchored. And it's all driving the back end with Venus. And this is over the weekend. So I would say that if you are getting stuck in relationship, do something that is cooperative. Like get out of your head, get out of your your schedule. Get out of your rut, right? Get out of it and do something cooperative. I think that could be really, really good. It will help resolve what's going on here with the odd. I guess you'll see. Venus is also starting to come into opposition with Saturn. So again, we're looking at obligations, right? Who are we obligated to be with, spend time with? What are the rules of engagement? So this is a really interesting time for Venus for sure. And then it goes into like extremely critical Virgo. So we're at the final degrees here where you can, I think, pass through some of these challenges with love. That's what I think. Because once it goes into Virgo, it's a lot more critical and a lot more efficient. So enjoy the salad days of the summer, the halcyon days of relating, and see if you can make something out of it. Finding a way to be more cooperative. Even finding a way with the South Node there to look at things from the past that have been meaningful in any relationship you've been in, and kind of bring it into the present. There might be something there. All right, let's check out our star of the day, brought to you by True Hemp Science. True Hemp Science is your one-stop shop for CBD, and great, just totally great. Had the sleep gummies last night, always work. And they have a whole host of other CBD products there that are available for you and your needs, right? And they're all numbered. All you got to do if you're interested in finding out the right elixir for you is to go to the website and contact Chris and make an appointment. He'll help you. He'll talk you through all the various products, and it's a service he provides for free. All you got to do is go to truehempscience.com and spend $100. Type in 15MINS, 15MINS, and guess what? You'll get free product. You will get free product with your order. $150 or more gets you free shipping, and there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. So today's star of the day brought to you by True Hemp Science. It was thin pickings today. Thin pickings, or maybe slim pickings. But today's star of the day, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on today's star of the day, but he's only the star of the day because I have a personal story to share about him. So today's star of the day is J.J. Stokes. Now you may ask yourself, who the hell is J.J. Stokes? J.J. Stokes was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. They moved up 10 spots in the draft to get him. He went to UCLA. He's 6'4", 220 pounds, and he had a great college career, right? So Jerry Rice, who is, the Yoda of the San Francisco 49ers, like the greatest player ever, they're looking for somebody to ultimately replace Jerry Rice, and it's this guy. And when you look at JJ's chart, he's got Mars conjunct the South Node, conjunct the Sun. There's Pallas. There's Mercury there, all in the 11th house, which is team, right? He's like really, really, really Libra. Really Libra. He's got Venus conjunct midheaven in Leo, right? So, JJ likes to look good on the field, right? But he has feminine energy. Right? In the sport of pro football, he's got Venus on the midheaven. Now he's got a sextile to Mars, which isn't bad. But so here's my personal story, JJ Stokes. I think JJ might have been a little lazy. That's my sense. He had a couple of injuries, slowed him down, but I think JJ was a little bit lazy. I mean, even if you look at his fifth house, look, he's got his nodal return and his Chiron return coming up. So he has Chiron in the fifth house. Isn't that right? Yeah, fifth house. He's got Chiron in the fifth house, which is team, which is sports, being an athlete, being a warrior. He's got Chiron there So he's supposed to try to figure this out. But all right, so here's my story about JJ Stokes. I used to work in Redwood City, and we had like memberships at this gym down the street. It was one of the great things about working at .com. You got little perks like that. And one day I'm in there working out, and JJ Stokes walks in to work out because the Niners were kind of around that area. I think they were still in Redwood City at that time. And so he goes there to work out. Now they have their own training facility, but he doesn't go to the training facility. And I swear to God, I worked out fucking harder than JJ Stokes. I was watching him. I'm like, I've heard these football workouts are legendary. I don't know what the fuck the guy did. He did a little bit of this, he did a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It was not some legendary football workout, right? And so when I look at his chart, I'm like, he's a little lazy, right? He's got all this Libra. And I know he's got Mars here, but it's a detriment, and it's conjunctive South Node. And then what is JJ Stokes known most for? He was spit in the face by Bill Romanowski, right? And when you see that, that's like that Chiron in Aries. It's right there, right? Chiron in Aries, like he's being spit on by another man. And Bill Romanowski used to play for the 49ers. And Bill Romanowski was nasty. Another story. I was backstage at a Rod Stewart concert. Bill Romanowski was there. I was taller than Bill Romanowski. I'm still taller than Bill Romanowski. Like Bill Romanowski is lucky if he is 6 feet. And he used every single medical product, technology at his disposal. And at that time in the 90s, it was steroids, so that he could compete. And steroids make you wacky. They make you really aggressive. So Romanowski was always uber aggressive. And he spit in JJ Stokes' face. And again, that's South Node Mars. And what's interesting is not a lot of, I'm trying to think back, not a lot of players came to JJ Stokes' side during that. He had a good career, not a great career. And ironically, in a very Libra-like fashion, Libra is the easy button, right? It's the easy button. In a very Libra-like fashion, the New England Patriots signed him, I think, with 15 days left in the regular season. He had already been on the squad before. They cut him. They signed somebody else, and then they re-signed him with, I think, 15 days left in the season. And he was on the active roster all the way through the Super Bowl. JJ Stokes got a Super Bowl ring. He got a Super Bowl ring. So all the other 49ers of the 1990s didn't get one. Well, the 94 team got one, but JJ was post 94. And he got a Super Bowl. And to me, that is like very Libran, right? He kind of backs into it. Belichick, who's the Aries, signs him. He's got a ring. So here's your star of the day. It was a very slight selection. It came down to JJ Stokes or Britt Eklund. And I chose JJ Stokes only because of the personal story, only because he did the most fucking Libra workout I've ever seen. It was like, dude, I even talked to him afterwards. I didn't question him about the workout. We both walked out at the same time. And they were playing Miami that weekend. And I told him that one of the DBs was going to be out. I might have been Pat Surtain or something like that. He's like, really? Like, he didn't fucking know. Like, he didn't fucking know that one of the guys on the opposing team, who's a really good player, who would match up against him, he didn't even know he was out of the game, or could be out of the game. I had to tell him. Anyway, there's your start of the day, JJ Stokes. All right, I'll be back here in an hour with my buddy Russ Winter, and we'll get into all the high strange that's going on and descending upon the world. And we'll have Russ's take on all of it. So come on back here in an hour. In the meantime, thanks for being here. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to discern what's possible. And by the way, I just wanted to, I'm going to leave a link here. We created some shirts for the eclipse, and they're very cool shirts. Let me just show you here. Mark S. from Cruelty Free Cartoons. These are his designs. They're super, super cool designs. So let me go here. Let me just let me pop this open. I'll leave the link inside of the show notes here as soon as we're done. And where is it? Oh, right here. Okay. So these are the shirts, and the designs are terrific. It's called Return of the Eternals, and we have the Stonehenge of the Hill Country here in Texas, and this is really what it actually looks like. It actually looks like that, and it's just down the road from the hotel that we'll be staying at. So we incorporated that into the design. So we've got hoodies and T-shirts. We got mugs. There you go. And as a special discount for you guys here, if you type in Harv, it's all going to be capital. If you type in Harvest 23, you will get a 25% discount. And I priced these shirts actually low, on the low side, so that when you got the discount, it would be a really good discount. So if you're interested, you want some really cool Eclipse gear, right? Like this mug is killer. I ordered one right there. If you want it, I'll leave the link in the show notes, and come on back here at 12 noon and hang out with me and Russ Winter. Okay? All right. Thanks for being here. Have a great day. God bless. Bye for now.